Today, I'm going to try to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon White playing as Gym Leader Blaine using his best possible team from his actual appearances in the main series games. For this run, we're going to get one new random encounter per every badge that we obtain, and I'm going to keep his team members a secret until we actually get them. And we'll also be allowed to use his two best alternates as well to make it a more reasonable challenge. Blaine is known as a fiery, passionate, and headstrong trainer, but I do foresee some tough matchups ahead with his monotype setup. If you want to see more trainer runs, make sure to smash that like button and let me know what trainer you want to see next. Let's see if we can beat Pokemon White as Blaine with only one new encounter per badge obtained, no items in battle, level caps in place, and the battle mode on set at all times. Man, I will never forget playing the Gen 5 games at the end of high school. Pure great memories and nostalgia. A stark contrast to my early days of university. You see, I had a rough go of things and was diagnosed with panic disorder, experiencing daily debilitating panic attacks. I waited a long time trying to tough it out by myself before finally having the courage to talk to a therapist at the school's health center. I remember the overwhelming sense of relief I felt after my first session even, realizing I wasn't alone in my struggles and that there were tools and strategies I could use to manage my anxiety. My therapist helped me understand the root causes of my panic attacks and taught me techniques like deep breathing and cognitive behavioral therapy to retrain and reframe my mindset to steadily decrease their frequency and severity. Fortunately, I now haven't had a single panic attack since 2015, and I attribute that fact in large part to the skills I learned in therapy and the ability to talk to somebody candidly and judgment-free about what it was I was going through. Therapy truly changed my life, and that's why I'm excited to partner with BetterHelp, the sponsor of today's video. BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that matches you with a licensed therapist based on your specific needs and preferences. You can have sessions via phone, video chat, or even messaging, whatever makes you most comfortable. With over 30,000 therapists in their network, BetterHelp gives you access to a wider range of expertise than may be available locally. It's exactly the kind of service that I wish I had back in the day. If you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or any other mental health challenges, you're not alone, and I encourage you to give therapy a try. Go to betterhelp.com/sylph or select Sylph Spectre at sign up for a special discount off your first month. Investing in your mental health is always worth it. Alright, here we go. It's time to take on the original Gen 5 game, one of my favorites in the entire series. In our room lies a mystery gift box, and in it is actually going to be our very own starter Pokemon, which ends up being a Rotom in place of the usual Tepig. Cool. Now the weird thing is that before the battles with our rivals start, we won't be able to change its form yet, but I guess it kind of works out, as it means neither Bianca nor Charon can even touch us with their tackles due to our ghost typing. Although I'm quite scared about the threat that Charon's Oshawott is going to pose later on. And I don't think I knew this, but Charon has a dialogue remark where he notes how great you are at battling if you don't lose any HP at all in the battle, which is pretty interesting. After completely trashing our bedroom, we meet our mom downstairs, and this very much reminds me of those memes where the mom is like,
"Sorry if you haven't made your bed, throw it away, it's too late to make it now. Company is coming, get rid of the couches. We can't let people know we sit!"
And with those battles done, we can now transform Rotom into an actual fire type, and one that Blaine has in the Pokemon World Tournament. Rotom Heat form with a lax plus defense and minus special defense nature. Now I've got to be honest, this is actually my third attempt at this run, as I'm sure those of you familiar with the game will know what might crush us having a pure fire type instantly. So I reset until we got Rotom specifically. After witnessing a crazy Team Plasma get-together that looks oddly like a rally in a Cumula town, we then have a battle with Bianca before reaching the next city. She leads with a Lillipup, and Rotom's best move at the moment is Thundershock, which does a bit less than half before she lowers our defense with Leer. Another attack brings her to the red before she hits a Tackle, which does surprisingly little, but she fully heals herself with a potion, meaning we have to repeat that process once more in order to get the KO. Though she used Leer again instead. Her Snivy then comes in, and unfortunately we don't have a fire move yet, so I go for Confuse Ray off the bat as she then hits herself. Then I try to go for the Confusion and Flinch combo with Astonish. Fortunately, her best move against us is a mere Vine Whip, so ultimately we're able to take her down over time with this strategy, being left below half in the end. That win grants us access to Striaton City, the location of the first gym. Before that though, we have to hit up the trainer school to take on Charon, and this battle is a bit scarier, with him leading with his water type Oshawott. The good thing being, we do have Stab super effective Thundershock, which does a massive amount of damage, but then he hits a Stab super effective Water Gun, which almost does half right away. Amazingly, even after his potion, we have just the range to KO with the next though, otherwise this might have been a disaster. His last Pokemon is Purloin, and it just went for Growl before two Thundershocks got the job done. And for winning, we get awarded with Oran Berries, which should be very helpful, as up next is the Striaton City Gym. After making it through the trainers with a couple of scares along the way, it's time for the gym leader, one of 3 in fact, which for us ends up being Cress. The very reason why Rotom might just be the only viable one of Blaine's Pokemon to start with. He leads with a Lillipup and Rotom hits it for a third with Thundershock before he uses Work Up to raise his attack. We then hit him again to just a sliver in the red before he hits a Bite, which does not do a whole lot. He then potions, but it doesn't quite heal him fully, so 2 more hits from there take him down. But then in comes the major threat, Panpour. Not only is this thing a nightmare, but at this point I realized I also accidentally misjudged the level cap as it's level 14, whereas we're at level 12. Uh-oh. Thankfully, Thundershock does just over half on him, but bam, he smashes us to just 5 HP in the red with a critical hit Water Gun. Goodness gracious. We do outspeed though and have just the range to be able to KO him with another and win us the first badge. Okay, that was terrifying. I don't know how I got the level cap wrong, but I'll make sure not to do that again. Wait, so these people are trying to kick Dream Mist out of Muna to use on Unova's population? What in the Carl Jung are you people doing out here? And amazingly, a Musharna comes along to give them a taste of their own medicine, inducing a nightmare of multiple Getsuses yelling at them. Gotta love it. Well, for winning our first badge, that means we now get our first reward encounter, and grabbing a randomized egg from the PC, it ends up hatching into a Vulpix, with a quirky, neutral nature, not raising or lowering any of its stats. I'll definitely take that. After grabbing the Thief TM in Wellspring Cave so we can get type boosting items off wild Pokemon, we next arrive in Nacrene City where the next gym is. And boy is it ever so weird playing through this after playing Black and White 2 so often, as normally this whole area is exclusive to post-game. In one of the houses though, we can lie to a girl and say that we chose Tepig as our starter. That way we can get the charcoal item offer to boost our fire type move power. Right outside the next gym, we're challenged by the king of Team Plasma, N, who leads off with a P-Dove, whereas I give Vulpix a try with the charcoal attached. Ember does just less than half before he hits us with Leer, then we hit another to a Sliver, and he uses Growl for some reason, but then he does out-prioritize us with a quick attack hit before we can take him down. In comes a bigger threat though, Timpole, for which I switch into Rotom, and we avoid Supersonic, and because he doesn't have that part ground typing until he evolves, a single Thundershock gets the job done. His final Pokemon is Timber, and we can 2-hit KO him with Thundershock since he only has Low Kick and, well, let's just say our oveny boy isn't quite as heavy as you'd imagine. But wait a minute, a museum tour? Am I mistaken? I'm here for a gym battle, what the... Well, finding my way through, we can take on the gym leaders, and boy did we ever have a scary moment, as one of their Patrats started using Bide, and if I had hit it again, it probably would have one-hit KO'd us. Fortunately, I caught it, so I went for Confuse Ray instead, and it hit itself. Then I had paralyzed it too, just in case, so a Thundershock could take down that threat. Ah, there we go. Tucked away in the basement is the second gym leader, Lenora, the normal type specialist. Now this battle I'm quite worried about, as she has a powerhouse team, but let's try our best plan. She leads with a Herdier, and fortunately Intimidate isn't a factor for our lead, Vulpix. I go for Confuse Ray right away, and I had thought that she'd use Leer, but she made it through confusion to smash us with Takedown right off the bat. Goodness gracious, as we're left on a quarter health and I have to switch. And she hits herself on the switch. Whew. Thundershock then brings her to a quarter, and she hits herself again. That's actually kind of unfortunate as this triggers her super potion to full health. 2 more hits bring her to a quarter again, then she makes it through confusion to hit us for a third damage, and then we can take her down with 1 more. But in comes her ace next, Watchog. I use Thunder Wave right off the bat, and she stays paralyzed, then I go for a paralysis and confusion combo with Confuse Ray. We need to cripple this thing, but it makes it through both to hit us below half. Yikes. And Thundershock does almost nothing. She then snaps out of confusion, but stays paralyzed, and then I confuse her again and she hits herself. Those 2 factors combined with Thundershock allow us to repeatedly hit her until we get the KO. Man oh man, that could have gone very wrong as I completely misjudged her, thinking she'd use Leer with Herdier, then Hypnosis with Watchog as I had a Chesto Berry which would have healed us. Close one. Oh no, not a Dragonite's head. Surely they won't make a whole story arc about evil people stealing a Dragonite skull? Oh, no, never mind. Well, at least we can get our next encounter now, and this time hatching an egg gives us a Growlithe with a Lonely plus attack and minus defense nature. Not bad at all, and the Intimidate ability too. Wicked. I just love the Pinwheel Forest design. Gotta be one of my favorites in the series, it's just so dynamic. Along the way through we find the Miracle Seed to boost grass moves, and you wouldn't think it would be useful for a fire team, but it might be helpful later on ironically enough. Making our way through, we arrive at the majestic Sky Arrow Bridge, and I remember being in awe when I first played this way back in 2010. Both it and Castelia City that we arrive in next are so impressive for a 2010 Mirror Nintendo DS game. Upon arrival right at one of the docks, we can pick up a fantastic item as we lie to yet another person saying that we got a Pokemon we didn't in order to get the Fire Stone. We have 2 Pokemon that could use it, but we do have to wait a bit to get level up moves first. Oh, Mr. Locke. I feel so bad that Game Freak canceled the event that you were going to be used for. What a mystery. The city here hosts a number of great items for us, including the Experience Share, the Rest TM, and more importantly, after meeting the Pokédex requirements, the Eviolite to boost the defenses of unevolved Pokemon. Let's go! The Castelia Gym is filled with honey, and boy is it ever reminiscent of how sweet of a performance Vulpix puts on here, frying almost all the bug types with ease. At the end stands the 3rd gym leader, Berg, and for once I'm not feeling too worried about our prospects. He leads with a Whirlipede, normally a huge threat, but Growlithe with Flame Wheel does huge damage and gets the burn, which combined with Intimidate and the Eviolite makes Poison Tail do like nothing. He's basically -3 right now, so a few more after he wastes his Super Potions twice do the job. And having him waste them there was fantastic, as in comes Dwebble next. A little more of a threat with his part rock typing, as Flame Wheel doesn't do a whole lot and he hits a sand attack to lower our accuracy. Not wanting this threat to grow, I make the switch into Rotom, who tanks super effective Smackdown reasonably well, then a neutral Shockwave gets the KO from there. His final Pokemon is Leavanny, and although we don't have a fire move, this gives us a perfect opportunity to switch back into Growlithe to intimidate him as well, causing String Shot and then Razor Leaf to have little effect before a stab 4x super effective Flame Wheel incinerates him for the victory. Now that was clean. 3 badges acquired. In the gate to Route 4, we're challenged by Bianca, and yes, her lead herdier does intimidate Growlithe, but we can return the favor right back to it. With our Eviolite in play, I decide to stay in regardless, hitting her for a 3rd with Flame Wheel before she misses Takedown. Then we can hit several more after she heals fully to bring her back down to a 3rd before she hits us to half, and then Super Potions again. It took like 7 attacks to take her down, as she just used Older Sleuth for some reason on the final turn. With that threat down, in comes Panpour, for which our only option is of course Rotom, who tanks Water Gun surprisingly well, and responds with our newly learned Shockwave for extra power, which gets the 1-hit KO. Now that's what I like to see. Her new Munna could then be taken down in 2 of them, although she did land a yawn, meaning we fall asleep right as Servine then comes out. No problem though, as I intended to switch anyway into Vulpix, as she did use Growth to power up, but we outspeed with Ember for over half, get hit by Leaf Tornado which lowers our accuracy, but we land the final attack to end the battle. But an even bigger challenge lies right ahead, as on Route 4 stands Charon. Now, not having played Black and White in so long, I kind of forgot he actually battles you here too, and I really should have led with Rotom against Pidove. Fortunately, we can 2-hit KO it with Growlithe's Flame Wheel, but we did get crit and pegged by Sandstorm twice before his now evolved Duat comes in. A switch into Rotom is incredibly risky as Razor Shell does just less than half, but then the Sandstorm tips us under, but our Oranberry does help, and fortunately Shockwave does just enough to KO. That was very dangerous with that high crit ratio. From there, his team isn't that threatening, with Pansear being taken down in 2 attacks after landing a yawn in the process, so Liepard comes in freely. But I can get Growlithe out there for the Intimidate again and 2 attacks to take it down after it went for Sand Attack. Harder than Bianca, that's for sure. Along the way through the desert, we can find the Dig TM from this guy, and in the Desert Resort we can grab another crucial item, a second Firestone, completing our requirements in that regard. Here we can also pick up the Soft Sand to boost ground moves, and the Black Glasses to boost dark moves, both of which should come in handy later. Arriving in Nimbasa City, we can then grab the Macho Brace to double the EVs that we get, and also the Return TM from the Mart, always a great TM pickup. An extraordinarily awkward Ferris wheel ride with N then ensues.
You like movies about gladiators?
During which he drops an absolute bombshell. I mean, what the hell? He's the leader? And then challenges us to battle with a scary team. Against his Sandile, I led with Growlithe for Intimidate, and he went for Embargo off the bat to cancel out our Eviolite. Yikes, I was not expecting that, as he hit a Sand Tomb too, but our second Flame Wheel finishes him. In comes his Darumaka next with Hustle, and I just hit him with Bite hoping for the flinch, which we get, so I hit another to a 3rd, and bam, Facade hits us to just 1 HP in the red. Damn. At this point, I think I thought Embargo only lasted while the Pokemon who used it is on the field, but it looks like it endures for 5 turns no matter what. The more you know. So I get Rotom out there, as he thankfully went for Fire Punch since we were in KO range, so a Shockwave then ends him. In comes his Scraggy next, and Shockwave does just over half before Brick Break hits us to half, then another can take him down. In comes his final Pokemon, a terrifying, fully evolved Sigilyph, and Shockwave does massive damage to the red, but then he uses Whirlwind. And it just had to be our 1 HP Growlithe that got sent out, didn't it? Problem is, it looks like Rotom and Sigilyph might be a speed tie, so I go into Vulpix instead to tank Air Cutter, then Psybeam hits, and we survive on just 15 HP, but get confused, then hit ourselves in confusion to the red. Why? I have no other option but to switch in Rotom, as he thankfully goes for Resisted Air Cutter, bringing us just into berry range, and we do indeed outspeed again for the KO. Oh man, that was nuts. With that win under our belt, we can then challenge the 4th gym leader, Elisa, the electric trainer, and her volt-switching Emolgas are a pain in this game, as in the sequel she has a Flaffy instead of one of them, which is much more manageable. Growlithe gets hit for a 3rd by one and lands Flame Wheel on the one that comes in, and gets a crit to the red. Okay, I'll take that, but she just Hyper Potions anyway. Another Volt Switch hits us low, and then we tag the second one too, and Static paralyzes us. Okay, Growlithe is useless now, so I go into Vulpix as we get hit for a 3rd again, then the second one hits us to just 16 HP before we tag the next with Flame Burst to just a sliver. Ouch, but I do have Quick Attack, but she has a 3rd Hyper Potion apparently? What in the world? Well, that was a wasted turn. It's time for the big boy to come in, Rotom, who resists their moves. It was a long back and forth, but eventually she switches into Zebstrika out of nowhere to get the Lightning Rod boost. It hits us below half before our berry, and then I confuse it. I then go for the Confusion and Astonish combo, the best we've got at the moment, and it's doing very little damage, but we actually have pretty good confusion luck, being able to take it down from there with mere chip damage, taking no further damage on our end. Her 2 Emolgas within a slugfest from there, with them not having much damage output against us, with neutral Shockwaves getting the job done with us below half health. Some scary moments with our whole team hurt badly, but Rotom definitely clutched that out. For winning, we get our next reward encounter, this time a Charmander, which has a careful nature, giving him plus special defense and minus special attack. Completely brutal, but hey, I'll take all the help that we can get at this point. Come on, come on. Hey, let's go! Touchdown!
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
Oh boy. Rotom, I am so sorry. The man made me partake in this. I had no choice, except for what I chose for you to wear, but I mean aside from that. Alder's propensity for having us crush little toddlers' hopes and dreams never fails. He does this in Black 2 and White 2 as well. So weird. The Driftveil Drawbridge. Surely it wouldn't have a nickname from the locals, insinuating that it looks like a Pokemon, right? I mean, it looks absolutely like no Pokemon that exists. Oh, come on. Arriving in Driftveil City, we can grab a couple great items before the next gym, such as the Rocky Helmet from this random guy in the cold storage, and also we partake in some weird Zinzolin storage container huddle. Someone's got to do the calcs on the most people on screen in a 2D Pokemon game at once, because this has got to be up there when Clay and his minions arrive too. Oh, great, the Never Melt Ice. Perfect for my fire team, in addition to the Scald TM that we find here. While training up for the next gym, we have a really cool evolution as our newly obtained Charmander evolves into a Charmeleon, who unfortunately just won't be able to evolve into a part flying type before this level cap. What we can do though is grab the expert belt from my favorite dude ever for merely having a Pokemon at level 30 or above, which he considers to be a high level. I guess he doesn't get out much. And realizing just how impossible the next gym is going to be, I decided to forego some of the level up moves I wanted to get on Vulpix like Flamethrower, and use the Firestone on him now to evolve him into a majestic Ninetales with Flame Burst instead. Not only that, but I also do the same for Growlithe, evolving him into a monster Arcanine. We're going to miss out on Crunch because of this, but at least he got Fire Fang. With that, it's time for the 5th gym leader, Clay, the ground type specialist, countering our team hard. He leads with an Intimidate Crocrock too, and I decide to go in with Ninetales to start. I go for Flame Burst immediately, really hoping to get the burn, but we don't get it, and then he hits a Bulldoze for just about half. I knew even a crit wouldn't KO and that he'd use a Hyper Potion now that he's in the red, but bam, we then get a critical hit on the next. Okay then, I will take that. As in comes Palpitoad next, a Pokemon with 2 types super effective against us, and I'm hoping he goes for Bulldoze instead of Muddy Water as I switch in Rotom. And yes, Levitate saves us. Ominous Wind is our best bet, which seems to do right about a third, but he uses Aqua Ring, so that's not good as we may now require 4 hits. He then hits a Muddy Water after we bring him low, and bam, a critical hit to instantly take Rotom down and give us our first death of the run. Are you kidding me? That electric typing and Levitate has been crucial for us. That is not good. But I switch in Arcanine to outspeed and nail him with Dig, which does enough for the KO. Then comes his ace, Excadrill, an absolute nightmare for us, but I hit it with Fire Fang low, and we get the burn as he hits Bulldoze. And oh man, a crit, but Arcanine lives it on just 1 singular HP. What in the world is happening? But now our speed is dropped and we don't have extreme speed yet, so I have to switch. So I go into Charmeleon with the Eviolite, but he Hyper Potions again. From here though, we can outspeed with Flame Burst for big damage, then he hits a Bulldoze, and it does less than half. He will outspeed now, but as long as he doesn't get a crit or a flinch as he hits a Rock Slide, we're golden as we can take him down with 24 HP to spare. Well, that went terribly, but I suppose it could have been worse. For winning, we get our next reward encounter, this time hatching a Torkoal with a modest plus special attack and minus attack nature. Pretty good overall, although sometimes you do want a Torkoal to hit physically, but oh well. Leaving Driftveil, we're challenged by Bianca again, and honestly, a modest Torkoal with Charcoal and Flamethrower performs incredibly well. And with added bulk investment is able to take down Herdier, getting a crit on even Panpour with one, tanking a Scald reasonably well in the process, avoiding Survine's attack and one-hit KOing it as well, and even doing half on a bulky Musharna. But it did put us to sleep, so I could switch into Arcanine instead for the super effective Bite KO. Finally having a bulky Pokemon should be a lot of help. At the end of Chargestone Cave comes our penultimate battle with N, and Torkoal with the Expert Belt is a complete monster against his team, mostly consisting of Steel types aside from his Boldore, which was a 2-hit KO, and Joltik, which is of course weak to fire. And Clink and Ferroseed of course stood no chance against our turtley boy. Exiting the cave has us arrive in Mistralton City, where we run into Cedric Diggory. Yes, the dead guy. In the airport here, we can pick up a great item for an upcoming evolution of ours, the Sharp Beak, and up north in the Celestic Tower, we can also grab the Will-O-Wisp TM, which would have been great for Rotom, by the way, and the Shadow Claw TM too. After meeting Skyla atop the tower and fulfilling her request to, ring her bell, we can then return to the city, where I remember that the move relearner is here, which might just be a run saver if I'm honest, being able to teach Arcanine a crucial move. The 6th gym leader Skyla then challenges us with her flying type team, which does have one nerve-wracking element in particular. She starts off with a Swoobat though, for which Arcanine is a great counter. Not only having Intimidate for acrobatics, but now having been retaught the Thunderfang move, which, with the Expert Belt attached, does massive damage and takes it down in one hit. Then comes Swanna, which, after having lost Rotom, I thought would devastate our entire team, but Thunderfang is of course a 4-time super effective move with the outspeed and one-hit KO. Although, to be fair, it's only 95% accuracy, so a miss would have been perilous. Her final Pokemon is then Unfezant, which does survive one, but flinches, so we get the free second hit to knock it out and win us the badge. Now that was a stellar performance. After getting shot out of a cannon and breaking our back, we then exit and... oh jeez! For our 6th badge, we can then grab our next reward encounter, this time hatching to give us a Magby with a Brave Nature, meaning plus attack and minus speed, which just might be the worst possible nature for it. I'm not too happy about that one. Regardless, with the level cap now raised, we can at least get our next evolution as Charmeleon finally fully evolves into a beastly Charizard. A Pokemon we have not used on the channel in a very, very long time, so I can't wait. Not only that, but at level 30, our newly obtained Magby then evolves into a Magmar, which I'm imagining should be a fantastic Eviolite candidate now that nobody else needs it. Just before Twist Mountain, we're challenged by our rival Charon again, and he has gotten quite powerful at this point. He leads with his now fully evolved Unfezant, and I get Magmar out there. Lava Plume does 2/3 and gets the burn, and the Eviolite does big work as we hardly get touched by Air Slash before landing another. But then comes Duat, a big threat, so I confuse it off the bat and he hits himself. He does have the leftovers item surprisingly, so now I lock him into Fire Spin for residual damage in addition to confusion. I then start hitting him with Feint Attack, and surprisingly enough we're actually able to take him down with this method, taking no damage. Liepard got itself burned on our Flame Body ability too by using Fake Out before Lava Plume then did him in. And finally his Simisear was an easy switch into Arcanine to tank a Flame Burst before Dig put him in his place with a one-hit KO. Beautiful. Man, it is so weird seeing Twist Mountain, another area that's completely blocked off until the post-game in the sequels despite you having to come this way near the Celestic Tower. Arriving in Icarus City, yet another area blocked off in the sequels, we can pick up 2 great TMs in the Pokemon Center, Fire Blast and Brick Break, before eventually making it to the 7th gym leader, Bryson. And yep, this is back when he was at his peak before he became a damn Pokestar Studios movie star later on. At the moment, Charizard is our strongest and fastest Pokemon, and given that Bryson is an ice trainer, we're able to make pretty quick work of his whole team with Lava Plume. Although surprisingly, his Beware actually did survive an attack, but thankfully just missed a Swagger and then got crit after he healed, so that posed no threat in the end. Whee! Man, what's the insurance policy in this place? I feel like this would be incredibly dangerous. And in a truly badass display, Bryson is able to sense the Shadow Triad before they even appear, making me even more angry they shafted him in the sequels. Oh well, at least we can get our next reward encounter now, this time hatching into a Ponyta with a plus defense and minus special attack nature. Not terrible for a physical attacker. And making our way up the Dragon Spiral Tower, Ponyta evolves into a Rapidash, which I'm not delaying as it has the same level up learn set anyway. Atop the tower we have some legendary Pokemon insanity, as it turns out Anne has awoken an insane beast, Reshiram, who flies him off someplace. Well, at least he didn't attack us with it. Yet. On Route 8 comes an invaluable item for our team, the Heat Rock, to extend the duration of sun in battle, which should be incredible for us as we can go back to the Mistralton Mart to buy the Sunny Day TM for a casual $50,000. I think it'll be well worth the money. At the end of Route 8 stands Bianca for our final battle with her, and she is quite powerful at this point with a fully evolved team. I lead with Arcanine against her Stoutland, and the two of them intimidate each other, but I don't plan to stay in here long, as I taught Arcanine Will-O-Wisp to burn her too, making her incredibly weak so I can get Torkoal out there. Now I can set up Sunny Day quite safely with the Heat Rock attached, and then switch into Arcanine again for another Intimidate, allowing us to Fire Fang her into oblivion. In comes Simipour next, and we miss Thunder Fang, but the sun weakens Scald so we can tank it above half and land it, but it survives on like 1 HP and tags us again, and we survive on just 24 HP in the red before she full restores. But another attack brings her back down, she heals again, then I go for reversal for a safer accuracy play, then a final Thunder Fang to take her down. Damn, that was close. If we missed there, again, we were toast. In comes Superior next, and with the sun now down, I switch into Torkoal to tank whatever she's got, even though Leaf Blade crits, and set up the sun again to one-hit KO her with a sun-boosted attack from there. And Torkoal's also able to take down her Musharna with a third health left in the end. We then run across this giant bridge with Getsus awkwardly waiting for us at the very end, and thank goodness he doesn't actually battle you here, but I did end up getting a damn Pokeball thrown at my head shortly thereafter. Man, I keep forgetting that Opelousas is different between versions. The older looking city is so cool. And boy, is it ever funny that Drayden has to tell Iris that Alder is the strongest trainer in the region, given her fate 3 years from now. Spoilers! Well, it's time for the 8th and final gym leader, Iris, the Dragon Specialist and future champion of Unova. Dragon resisting our team's typing is quite frightening, but I'm hoping we can pull through this. Fortunately, she leads with a female Fracture with Rivalry, so its attacks will do 25% less damage on us, and I lead with Magmar to confuse it. I then use our Fire Spin strat, but she starts getting Dragon Dances off, which is quite scary indeed. I then hit a Feint attack to bring her low, but she gets another Dragon Dance off, which is getting really scary, and we bring her to the red before I decide to switch into Torkoal, fearing a hit. But she heals up almost entirely on the switch. Oh no. This thing is like +3 and snaps out of confusion and gets another Dragon Dance off as I set the sun up. Then she Dragon Dances again as I hit a flamethrower, and I am desperately praying for a burn, but we don't get it. We did bring her low though, and for some reason she just went for Dragon Rage, which does set damage, so I guess she didn't see the KO after all and we made it through. In comes Druddigon next, which absorbs Flamethrower easily and slams us with Dragon Tail to bring Magmar in. I then go for Lava Plume, but again no burn, and Night Slash doesn't do much on us with the Eviolite on. She then heals fully and I keep hitting her, but no burn in 3 hits, as another Night Slash brings us below half and we can finally take it out. Then in comes her final Pokemon and ace, Haxorus, and we are too weak to stay in, so I go into Arcanine to get the Intimidate off, but she lands a Dragon Tail to switch us into Ninetales. Not the worst, I suppose, as I can then confuse her, but she gets a Dragon Dance off regardless. Uh-oh. I go back into Arcanine for another Intimidate, and then she hits herself in confusion, then gets another Dragon Dance off before we hit a Will-O-Wisp to burn. Whew, that will have the damage of her attacks, but she's still raising up her attack stat insanely. So I hit a Fire Fang and we've got her below half with the burn damage. She then hits a Slash, but no crit, and we hit another attack to bring her to a third. Then I decide to switch into Torkoal, but she Dragon Tails, and amazingly brings us right back into Arcanine for another Intimidate. So I'm feeling safer to go into Rapidash, and the Rocky Helmet I attached combined with the burn are enough to get us the win. That got pretty scary in a couple of places, but that's the 8th badge in the books. Before our final path, we have a final battle with Charon on the bridge ahead, and boy oh boy does he ever have a scary team now. I thought about setting up Iron Defense with Torkoal to lead off because his Samurott only has physical water attacks, but his lead on Pheasant not only has Taunt but has Super Luck and the Scope Lens, so that would be very dangerous in several ways. And he even catches my Sunny Day with Taunt, so now we have to hit a Flamethrower, and after our Taunt wears off, we can get the Sunny Day up. Then, because he taunts us again, we only take a 3rd damage before taking him down. In comes the massive threat though, Samurott. But with the sun up and a switch into Arcanine for the Intimidate, we tank Aquatail reasonably well. Then respawn with an Expert Belt boosted Thunderfang, which does just over half. Then he gets flinched, so we're able to safely KO it from there. Fire Fang is then a crit 1-hit KO on Liepard as Arcanine is just going off. And I tried to go into Rapidash here but got hit surprisingly hard, so I switch into Magmar instead as the sun goes down and confuse him, and even Magmar eventually gets brought to the red by a crit through confusion. So a final switch into Charizard has us fly and then Flame Burst him into his doom. Man, that was messy, but that opens up the final gates to Victory Road. And what a nice touch of effort the developers did here. This must have been a lot of work for something that ultimately the player's gonna spend like a minute going through. A long trek through Victory Road has us arrive at our final destination, the Unova Region Pokemon League. And it is here that we can grab our final encounter egg, ultimately hatching into a Houndour with a rash plus special attack and minus special defense nature. Pretty cool. And with some training under his belt, Houndour eventually evolves into a Houndoom, who I'm actually going to replace Rapidash with heading into the league, as I think he'll be more useful. Now, unfortunately, Dark Pulse is only a tutor move, so I had to level Houndour all the way to level 49 to get Crunch. And we're gonna run a physical Dark set on this thing. Weird, I know. And normally you can't get the Magmarizer until the post-game in White, but since Blaine technically does have one on his best team after all, I waited until we got all 8 badges to trade evolve him into a beastly Magmortar. And fortunately, this one I could level up to the cap of 50 to get Flamethrower since trait evolutions don't require a level up. After fulfilling the rest of our EVs, getting any remaining items and TMs we might need, and a ton of strategizing, it's time for the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is Chantal, the Ghost-type trainer, and we have a perfect setup here, as sending out Houndoom means we're either immune to or resist all of Urkofagrigus' moves, meaning we can get a Howl off to raise our attack, then a Stab super effective Expert Belt boosted Crunch is able to 1-hit KO both it and the 2 Pokemon that have super effective types against us, Golurk and Jellicent. Only problem being that I forgot to take account of, her Jellicent has Cursed Body and disabled our Crunch, so by the time Chandelure came out, the best I could do is Sludge Bomb, which does get the poison, but Fire Blast does a surprisingly huge amount of damage on us. I then switch into Magmortar, who avoids her next attack, and Fate Attack hits, and barely doesn't do enough in the red. Even the poison brings her to a sliver, and then she full restores entirely. Oh no. I can at least confuse her and Feint Attack does a third or so, but she then lands a Shadow Ball which slams us below a third. I have to switch again, so I go into Charizard, and she hits herself, and I can unleash a super effective Shadow Claw, and it barely doesn't KO either, as she hits herself, and again just a sliver before she full restores entirely again. Oh my word. 2 more Shadow Claws hit, and finally the crit ratio comes in clutch, taking her out on the second one. Sheesh, that was scary. Wanting a little bit of a break from that madness, I then decide to take on Caitlyn next. And fortunately, so long as we're willing to risk a 70% accuracy Focus Blast hitting and getting a crit, we can power up with Howl, and she misses anyway, allowing us the clean sweep through her entire Psychic team. Now that's what I'm talking about. The third Elite Four member is Grimsley, the Dark-type trainer, and his team was super difficult to plan around, but I think I came up with something cool. He leads with a Scrafty, and I get Torkoal on the field to immediately set up Sunny Day after getting hit by Crunch. He then tried to lower our accuracy with Sand Attack, which I was hoping for, cause it fails due to Torkoal's White Smoke ability. So after taking another Crunch, we can tag him with a second Flamethrower for the KO. In comes a terrifying threat for our team though, the part Ground-type Crocodile. And here, I switch into Charizard predicting the Earthquake, which works, then I switch into Magmortar now knowing that he's not going to use it. And my calcs tell me we should outspeed by one singular speed stat, and we do, landing the Sun-boosted Flamethrower for the KO. Amazing. From there, both his Liepard and Bisharp suffer the same fate, with the former only having managed a Fake Out. Now that was clean. The last Elite Four member is Marshall, an absolutely terrifying prospect for us. You'd imagine with just a fighting team it wouldn't be too bad, but every single one of his Pokemon carries Stone Edge with the exception of Mienshao having Rock Slide. So after a few of our remaining rare candies to help out, it's time. He leads with a throw, and I get Magmortar out there after just having taught him the Psychic TM, so an Expert Belt boosted one brings him to the red, then he hits a Bulldoze for less than half, but does drop our speed. I know we should still outspeed, so I hit him again after he heals, and it barely doesn't KO on a Sliver, but this triggers another full restore, which is fine by me, as this one gets a crit to KO, even though we could have just outsped again anyway. Then in comes a Sock with a massive attack stat, and sturdy so he can't be one-hit KO'd. Brutal, but I switch in Arcanine for the Intimidate, then take a Stone Edge, and it still does over half, but our Citrus Berry helps us out. I have to switch, so I go into Torkoal, who gets hit by one as well for a quarter, then hit by another to below half before our Berry, and then I get Sunny Day up. He then misses his next one finally, then Flamethrower brings him to a Sliver, then we get hit once more before landing a final attack to KO. Sheesh. Then in comes Conkeldurr, an absolute monster. I have nothing that can safely switch in at this point, so I stay in, and bam, he hits a Stone Edge which KOs Torkoal immediately. Ouch. From here I go into Magmortar as Psychic hits and gets the one-hit KO. No way. But then I could have sworn my calcs told me Mienshao would outspeed us with Rock Slide, but we outspeed it somehow, nailing it with Psychic as well and sealing the deal. Okay then. Well, after N's castle emerges from the ground and consumes the league, we have one of the most epic moments in the series as the gym leaders arrive to save us from the sages. And then I anticlimactically go the wrong way. Oops. But something very cool features in this league. A PC, so technically we can deposit Torkoal and withdraw Rapidash back onto our team to have a full team again. At the top of the castle stands the man who defeated Alder, the champion, and the leader of Team Plasma. And boy oh boy does he ever have a scary lead for us, the legendary Reshiram, a dragon and fire type that quad resists our team's type. Oh gosh. I lead with Houndoom against it for a particular reason and then immediately switch into Rapidash, who gets hit by Fusion Flare for less than half. I can then land a Silk Scarf boosted return, and we get a crit, but then Reshiram obliterates Rapidash with a Hyper Beam. Damn. But now I can get Arcanine out there to go for the super effective Bulldoze KO on it. One threat down. Then comes Caracosta, a dual-type super effective Mon against our team, and I have no choice but to go for the Bulldoze, but he hits a Stone Edge afterward and immediately takes Arcanine down with a crit. Are you kidding me? With the range that it's at, we do have one answer though, Magmortar, who can land the super effective Thunderbolt via TM for the KO. But then in comes Archeops, who hits another super effective Stone Edge and gets an immediate one-hit KO on Magmortar. You've gotta be kidding me. Well, at least Charizard does outspeed with a Flamethrower, and I was really hoping that he'd miss one, but nope. A 4-time super effective Stone Edge to smash Charizard to the ground. I then send in Ninetales as Energy Ball brings him low, then he hits another Stone Edge, but Ninetales lives it below half and can land another to KO. His next Pokemon is then a Klinklang at least, so a Flame Burst does the trick, and following that is Zoroark as Flame Burst does over half on it, but no burn, and then he gets a crit Night Slash to take Ninetales down as well. A Houndoom switch can then take him down though, and his last Pokemon is an Ice-type Vanillux, so a final Flamethrower nails him for the final KO. I realize upon retrospect a Houndoom switch at the end there into Zoroark could have worked, but risking the Focus Blast would not have been good. and unfortunately an energy ball from Ninetales against Archeops wouldn't quite do half to bring it into defeatist range, so we were kinda stuck either way. And why the Houndoom lead switch in the beginning? Well, that's because there's a final bonus boss at the end of the game, Getsis himself, the real Team Plasma leader, as he challenges us to an epic final battle right at the end, with us having one Pokemon left. Yeah, I'm not feeling too hopeful here. I set up Sunny Day against Discofagrigus, and we do avoid Toxic, as a sun-boosted flamethrower hits, and still doesn't do enough as he lands it on this turn. Another takes him down, but then he sends out Hydreigon instead of Seismitoad, which we could have Solar Beamed to death, but Hydreigon resists pretty much everything that we have, so we do avoid one Focus Blast, but after only managing to bring him below half, he hits a second and ends our hopes and dreams entirely. Well, those two consecutive battles being unable to switch your lead are tough, and we technically did beat the standing champion, N, who takes Alder's place, so we'll consider that a pseudo win with a loss in the bonus battle. Our team fought valiantly, but man oh man, the late game is really set up well against fire types. I hope you guys enjoyed this run as much as I did, and I'll see you guys next time for another challenge video.